So in this video, we're going to start setting up the components for our actual project that we're building here. Before we go any further though, I've got some CSS that I'm just going to quickly dump in the public folder here by going new file, style.css, and pasting it here. You can get this from the GitHub repository and just copy and paste it in. This is not a CSS class, so I've just rewritten it all, and you can just copy and paste it in. So we just need to also declare this in our HTML by just going link rel equals style sheet type equals text css href equals style.css. There we go. We should have our styles loaded. So let's just go ahead and refresh here. One of the styles is to use sans serif fonts instead of serif fonts. Alright, so I'm just going to remove all of this and I'm just going to replace it with just our color tag here. And I'm going to go back to our color file and we're going to start working on this. We don't need our terminal up for now, we'll get that back up later. So I'm just going to remove all of this here, and I'm just going to give our div a class here. So to do that in React, we have to use the term class name, not class. Class is obviously a special word when it comes to programming, so not to confuse class in CSS with a class in, say, a JavaScript object sort of situation. We use the term class name here, which can trip people up and get confusing, so just be aware of that. I'm going to call it color. That's how it's defined in our CSS here. Now I'm going to pass a couple of props to this object here. So the first one is a value for red, green, and blue. And the next one is a name value for our color. And later on, we're going to pass in a function to actually remove this color from the list of colors, but we'll do that at a later stage. So underneath here, here. So I'm going to create a new attribute in this div called style. So when we're setting up a attribute that's not a string, we need to wrap it in braces, and the style attribute that we give to a JSX component is in the style of an object. So we actually have the braces wrapping our JSX attribute, and then we have the braces for the JavaScript object that we're giving it. So we can actually just go down like this and treat it like a regular object. And then the key value pairs in the object are the JavaScript ways of representing CSS attributes and rules. So instead of background dash color, what like you would write in CSS, we write background color in camel case like this. And then the value of that is basically what we want to set the CSS value to be. So we would like to set the RGB color. We would like to add our props.red value, props.green, props.blue. It has to be in that specific order because it is RGB, red, green, blue. We need to close the parentheses here and put a comma because we're going to add another object underneath. We're going to add another value underneath this for the color of the text. So because we're having a dynamic background color, we also have to have a dynamic text color. This is so that it's readable. If this color, if red, green, and blue is 0, 0, 0 and it's black, we can't have our text be black because it's not going to be readable. So we need to set the color to be. So this is a math formula I got off of the internet. There's really no problem with avoiding reinventing the wheel if someone else has done the work to figure something out. So I've not tested this against accessibility standards, but it seems to work well, and it's going to work well enough for this example project. So we're going to use a ternary operator here and basically say that props.red multiplied by 0.299 plus props dot, oh, don't know what happened there, props dot green multiplied by 0.587 plus props dot blue multiplied by 0.114. If that is greater than 186, then we want to return black, else we want to return white. So basically, we're adding a conditional logic here. So we are forming this mathematical equation on the colors that are provided by the properties. If this condition evaluates to true, we're setting the color of the text to black. Otherwise, we're setting it to white. So underneath here, I'm just going to create another div here, class name text underscore content. And I'm going to set a h2, and this is going to say the name of the color, props.name. Actually, I'm going to not copy that line down because I'm not going to use h2s. I'm going to use h3s because heading hierarchy is important. So I'm going to type red, and here I'm going to do props.red. So when we're wrapping it in braces, we're just returning the value of whatever's inside. So it's going to return the number that is representing the red here. So I'm just going to copy this 3 times. Copy this to green. Going to make this capital G. I'm going to copy this to blue. Going to make this a capital B. Yeah. Just like that. So now in our app, we have this color, but we need to pass it a few different properties for it to actually work. Because if we render it now, oh, sorry, I've not run build. Let me just go npm run build. Webpack is watching the file. So I'm going to build the file, refresh. We get a color here. It doesn't have any. So you might notice that the text is white and the background color is white, and the reason for that is because there's no color defined, and because there's no color defined, that equation we put in is always evaluated to false. This is not a problem for accessibility because there's never going to be a time when this color is undefined in our actual application unless there's a bug. So we need to set our red, green and blue values here. And we also set a name for the color. So I'm going to, under the name, I'm going to put red. Under red, I'm going to make it very red, 255 max component. We're working with 8-bit color here. Not a lot of green, but we'll add quite a bit of blue. So now if I save that, and I refresh it here, we've got red. It's actually more of a pink because I've added way too much blue here, and it's very red. So that's basically how our color component works. So if we go into our components tab in the React developer tools, we can see we have our app component. It's rendering our color components, and we can see the properties we've passed through it. You can edit these just inside this debug window here, just to see how it would reflect in the browser. And of course, the beauty about React is that we can reuse this color component again and again. And we can go, we'll make this color maybe blue. We'll make this 255, make this 100 instead. Let's go green. Make this 255, it's 100. 0, no blue at all. Refresh. So you can see we get all of these colors working as expected. So basically this project is supposed to allow a user to go through and adjust these red, green and blue channels and then save the colors that they like into a list. So we're going to have to create that color form to use at the top of the app component so that we can create colors and add them as color components. And that's what we're going to do in the next video.